Welcome to the Close the Chapter podcast. I am Kristen Boyce, a licensed marriage and family therapist with a private practice, Pathways to Healing Counseling. Through conversations, education, strategies, and shared stories, we will be closing the chapter on all the thoughts, feelings, people, and circumstances that don't serve you anymore and open the door to possibilities and the real you. You won't want to miss an episode, so be sure to subscribe. Welcome to this week's Close the Chapter podcast. I am so grateful you're here for this episode. If someone shared this with you, they are an amazing friend, person, partner, and I am so grateful they did that. If you are a longtime listener, welcome back, and I hope this episode is impactful in your growing journey. The fact that you want to really tend to yourself and become even more of yourself speaks volumes about the work you're doing in your life. Truly, if no one is saying you go for doing this work, I want to tell you, I am so proud of you. It's not easy sometimes, and the fact that you are here listening to this episode says you want to continue to grow and heal. It's my love language, if you don't already know that. I love deep conversations, evolving conversations, and really becoming a better version of myself. It is why I'm here doing this work. So welcome, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is so important about healing through whatever you've been through. And how do we tend to our nervous system? What does that even mean? Are you living in a dysregulated life? Are you waiting for the next shoe to drop? Are you constantly feeling anxious? Maybe you have looping thoughts that you just cannot break through. This episode is for you. There are certain people I interview and they have just a warm, compassionate, centered energy. And this truly is a guest that brought that to this podcast interview. Let me introduce you to Lynn Fraser. She is the founder of Somatic Mindfulness, Still Point Method of Healing Trauma. She has been interviewed on major podcasts and summits in the field, such as the Trauma Therapist podcast, Therapy Chat. My friend Laura Reagan, love her. And her work focuses on helping people regulate their nervous system. Trauma is stored in our body as a sensation and energy with associated thoughts. The Still Point Method helps people release trauma and heal. She is the founder of the Radical Recovery Summit, Innovation in Healing Trauma and Addiction through a Social Justice Lens. She interviews leaders, innovators in the field, including Gabor Mate, Deb Dana, Stephen Porges, Diane Pohl Heller. Those are all well-known names in our field of trauma and attachment. And she shares so many nuggets of wisdom that are simple and easy to understand. She talks about how we're holding our breath, which I always say whenever a client comes in, including myself, I will see them holding their breath. And that means there's something there that the body is trying to tell you. Holding your breath means you're bracing, that you don't feel safe and you're bracing for the next thing. And we talk a lot about that. We talk about how we exercise. Society focuses on exercise, but we don't focus on how to calm ourselves down at the start of the day. And we focus a lot of time on how to do that. So this episode is just filled with so much helpful information. Feel free to share it with somebody that means the world to me and hopefully to the person you're sharing it with, that you are on this healing journey with them. You want to have these deeper conversations. You want to talk about your nervous system and maybe your breath and really connect at a deeper level. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did with Lynn. Welcome to the Close the Chapter podcast. I am so grateful you're here with me today. I have an amazing guest who I would say is dedicated to healing trauma as much as I am. I am so passionate, and I can tell you are too, Lynn. And so I'm so grateful to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and then how you really got onto this methodology, Still Point Method of Healing Trauma.
So 33 years ago, I started meditating. And when I did, I had been working at an AIDS organization for 7 years in the 80s. Very intense work. I was really burnt out. And I also had a lot of compulsive thinking, My mind was always in a stir. My shoulders were up around my ears.
Mm.
And I didn't know anything about trauma. Of course, most people didn't back then. I was in my late 30s at the time. And I really just discovered that I could be with myself in a way that I had never been before, and that I could learn about the mind and that I could actually experience peace. So that was something I had never really known before. I'd had a pretty traumatic teen years and was bullied and shamed. And at the time, didn't really think anything about that. That was just my life as it was. I mean, I knew there was trauma there, but I wouldn't have used that word. And then as I went into my adult life and things went along, but looking back on it now, I can see that I was mostly in freeze during those years. And then as I started to meditate and have more peace in my mind, my body started to feel better. Then several years later, 12 years later, I had a couple of experiences that were really traumatic, and I developed PTSD from one. And at the time, I looked for resources on that, and there was nothing except Dr. Peter Levine, Waking the Tiger, which is a great resource and a great book. People didn't know about it then. Like I would say, I have PTSD, and they go, "What's that?" And now everybody knows what that stands for, right? And the treatment, I was seeing a psychologist for something else that had just happened. And she diagnosed me with PTSD. And she said, the treatment is you need to keep yourself safe. Your body needs to experience safety. And I realize now how unusual that was, that a lot of that somatic work only came in maybe 10 years ago into the whole field of psychology and therapy. So that was very helpful. And I knew how to do that. I'd been meditating. I knew how to do relaxations and yoga, and I knew to get myself out in the country where I felt safer. So I really did take that to heart. And then I went along for a while, and you know how life gets. And then I was exposed to Dr. Gabor Mate and his treatment around trauma, compassionate inquiry, but also just the understanding of one of his definitions is trauma isn't what happens to us, it's what happens inside of us as a result of what happens to us. And if we are alone and there's nowhere to turn for help, which was the case for me when I was a teenager, it all just gets stored. And I was working with a somatic mindfulness tradition as well. And we were looking at what do we feel in our body? What are the sensations? What are the energies? And really began to realize how trauma is stored in our body with associated thoughts. So we have the sensation and energy, which is a really good reason why a lot of us don't want to be in our body, right? And partly we're scared of the associated thoughts that kind of come up and they hijack us. Traumatic memory can really take us out of the present and into the past. And also we go into the future in terms of our nervous systems always trying to keep us safe. So I started working about 15 years ago, more specifically around trauma, and worked individually with people. Mostly now I work with groups and teach classes. But the nervous system is the basis of all of my work. And what happens in our nervous system when we experience danger or threat is we go into a very understandable response. And we know those now as fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are four of the common ones. But when we're in a survival response, we can't connect with our heart, with our compassion. We don't enjoy our life as much because we're trying to make it through. And so what I developed was this way of really encouraging people to develop a feeling of safety in their body. And part of the way we do that is by seeing through experience that sensations in our body are not here to hurt us, and that we can develop the strength and the capacity to stay present. So if there's a sensation there, sometimes we'll go into kind of a locate and describe. Well, exactly where is it? Well, it's in my gut. How big is it? It's a tight fist. Is it moving or is it still? If it's moving, it usually feels a little more dangerous. And then we might look at, is it hot or cold? Do you have an image of it? So to really pay attention in that kind of a specific way to sensations in our body. And then we sit with the sensation and basically say, why are you here? Because it's always our nervous system. It's always our nervous system saying, watch out, or there's something I need to work with. A lot of times that's from our younger self. We have these feelings of core deficiency beliefs, I'm not lovable. We have all of these things that happen, and they happen to everybody. We all have nervous systems. We don't all have the same experience, but we all have a nervous system and we all have challenges. And now, of course, with the world the way it is, most of us have a baseline of fear and anxiety that's really poked at through social media and the news. So having the capacity to take a few breaths, let ourselves settle, come into our body. So part of the method is that we really become friends in our body and we really understand and know from experience that these sensations are not here to hurt us. And through the practices, we learn to trust that we can stay in the present moment. So in the present moment, we might look around and use all of these great somatic tools that are available to us now, right? And we look around and we see there's actually no danger right now. So why am I on the edge of my seat? Well, it's because of the habit that our nervous system has formed. Our nervous system kind of rules our whole daily life in terms of, am I here? Am I present? If I'm in freeze, I'm not going to connect with you. I'm not going to connect with anybody else and not with myself, of course, either. So over the years, I just kind of developed this really simple but powerful practices to heal a nervous system and to work with the past trauma, like whether it's complex PTSD, or lots of people wouldn't diagnose that. They would just say, I have ordinary trauma. I had the dyslexia and I had a hard time in school. I was shamed when I was in school, or I had a parent with mental illness, or there's so many things that are difficult for us and we don't have the support. And then they get stuck. And then here we are at some future age having to work with that. So that's basically what we do. It's a lot of nervous system support and regulation. And from the safety of the present moment, then we can work with the trauma from the past.
So you start with the present moment. Do you start with the body sensations or how do you begin? If someone's like,
So
where
if
do
I
you,
was
yeah.
working with somebody privately, sometimes people will bring in, this is what's going on. I want to look at that. Sometimes people will say, I'm just feeling kind of stressed.
Mm-hmm.
My shoulders are tense. I have this sick feeling in my gut. I'm not really sure what it is. My mind is racing. I can't sleep. So we might actually just start with the body. But we would start with some breathing, some looking around the room, some establishing safety, some of those somatic things. Holding our own hands is such a great one so that people can feel a sense of, I'm here and I can trust that I can stay here in the present moment. Because as soon as we get dragged off into the past, then that's when the traumatic memories might come up. That's when we start to feel like, I'm not in control. This could overwhelm me. But if we can say solidly, I've got my feet, I know where my feet are, I'm sitting on a chair, I'm in this safe place, then I can bring that up. And often it's helpful, especially with people with longstanding trauma. It's really helpful to have a facilitator, a therapist, somebody there with us, because we usually need an anchor into the present moment when we're working with difficult things.
As you were talking, I was thinking about my daughter who's off at college. She's transitioning. She's in
Ah,
her second year. And I think this is so common what I hear with clients too. There was this part of her that felt alone. Like here I am at college and there's a lonely part. And I think there's a lot of that in the world right now where people feel lonely.
yes, yes.
And so how would you start working with a lonely part? Let's say someone's like, yes, I feel alone, which is a feeling that we often all have at some point in time. Where would
We
you
do.
begin?
I think one of the things is to acknowledge that it's not like there's something wrong with us. It's a natural response to the world that we're in. So we live in a pretty disconnected world. But also, when COVID hit so suddenly and with such an impact of social distancing, and that made social anxiety a lot worse for a lot of people and people who really relied on going out with their friends on the weekend and all of those things to keep themselves happy and connected. All of a sudden, they couldn't do that anymore. So I think to recognize there are situations that are making this worse. So if someone has social anxiety, though, that's often at the root of the feeling alone. It's like we know we need to be around other people, but we kind of shy away from it because, like, well, what if I walk into that room and they all look at me? Or what if nobody wants me there? Or what if I say something foolish? Or we have all of this fear around what's going to happen. And some of that is from childhood, especially teen years. Teenagers can be really cruel with each other, but all of us want to be included. And we're also all really vulnerable to shame. So when we feel like we're not welcome or we feel like we're not part of something, it's hard for us to go and do it anyway. The more that we can pull on our strength and build resilience, the better it will be. So it might be to look first at what are the fears? Like, what is it I expect might happen there? So I was using an example a few weeks ago about, I want to meet some friends. I like to play cards. I'm going to go to my community center and join a card game. So, what happens in your body when you think about doing that? I even got a little tingle there.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm going to walk into a room where nobody knows me. And it's not really high stakes because, it's a community center. If nobody knows you, it doesn't really matter that much. But it can feel kind of terrifying. So we would do like a slow motion walkthrough of right then when I first started thinking about that, what was the sensation in my body? And then we would pay attention to it. We would notice all of a sudden this thing came up. Like, what's going on there? And then we might start looking at some of the thoughts about that. One of the things I find with thoughts is that they feel real if they're connected with sensations, especially. And our mind believes our thoughts, right? So when we see things out in the world or in social media or in the news, that life is really vulnerable right now, that it's scary to be human, all of the disasters and all of that that's going on. One thing that's I think is fascinating is that until the 1960s, when television became common in Western culture, if you saw danger happening with your own eyes, it was right in front of you. It was 50 or 60 or 100 feet away from you. Now we see danger with our own eyes all the time, but it's on video. And so our nervous system hasn't caught up to that. It doesn't know, okay, that image that I'm seeing of that person who's in some kind of trauma, that's not actually, I don't need to protect myself as though it's happening to me right now. So we might care about the person, we care about all of those issues and social justice, but there's no help in the situation to be jacked up about it. And so to look at thought and recognize, number one, we have a lot of catastrophic thinking of our nervous system is trying to protect us by thinking of everything that could go wrong, which is great. But then our mind goes, oh my God, it's going wrong. And then we react to it as though it is, right? So we're hypervigilant, we're holding our breath. So all of those things we can work with as they're happening in the moment. So we do some breathing. There's a tool I use a lot of having people open their eyes and then put the image that they're looking at in a space on the other side of the room on a wall. So you put it over there and that helps your brain know, okay, I'm looking at an image. It might be a picture of someone's face. It might be a little video clip. It could be anything, but you put it over there and then you put a frame around it so that you can see, okay, there's distance between me and the frame and the picture. And there's also distance there's space on the outside of the frame. So then we look at the image and go, ooh, I can feel that. We have a response to it. And then we take our eyes to the empty space and we just take them around the empty space a couple times in each direction. So it's a little bit of the EMDR, the power of that kind of thing, right? It helps our brain to realize we're looking at an image. And then we look back at the image and we go, okay, now what's happening in my body? And usually the image will get fuzzier or not as intense. Sometimes we might do that with words too. And then oftentimes the sensation will settle a little bit in our body. So then we're back in the present moment. We're here in our body. We're noticing that we have an image that we're looking at. So working with our mind, I have a book called Friends with Your Mind, How to Stop Torturing Yourself with Your Thoughts. And it's because we all do, right? We get into these loops of worry. Our brain believes what we're thinking, and then we try to protect ourselves from a threat that's not real. And even if it is something that does come to pass, we're not going to be served by being stressed the whole time leading up to it. And also then our brain, our whole system our wisdom brain, our intuition, we can't access that when we're in a survival mode. The same as we can't access compassion, connection. We forget about other people. We don't care about other people. When we're in a survival mode, we just want to survive. And we might include our family or something, but really it's just kind of primitive. And that's the way that the nervous system works. So to be able to come into nervous system regulation, which just means we're not in a survival mode, that's almost all of the work that I do, is to support people in seeing it sooner. So somatic mindfulness can help us to notice my shoulders are starting to creep up around my ears, or I'm starting to breathe a little bit differently. I'm holding my breath. I could take some breaths. I could do something to come back into the moment and stabilize. And then from there, we know what to do. If we're in a survival mode, we're just reacting.
That's powerful. I love this book title because this is the mind takes
Yes.
over and goes on a loop. And I find that is one of the pieces and parts that people struggle with the most.
Yes.
It's like, I can't get out of the loop. So going the picture image on the wall. So you're trying to distance yourself, right? And come back to the present moment.
Yeah, you're trying to help your brain recognize you're looking at an image that's not happening right now. Yeah.
And then can you do this with the thoughts? Is that the idea?
Definitely. Yeah. And so, like, a lot of the thoughts we have are not that disruptive, but those kinds of thoughts are the ones where we get into that loop. And so sometimes I'll put them up like a collage or something. But if you look at somebody, for instance, who's afraid to get on an airplane and fly, they have images of what's going to happen. And so if you put that image I worked with someone who had an image of a plane going into the ocean and drowning, even though he wasn't flying over the ocean. But it was just the brain is bringing up all these alarming images in an attempt to keep us safe. Plus, once he'd had a panic attack, he was afraid of having another panic attack on the plane, right?
Yes. Yes.
Which is really scary. And it's like, we're out of control and it's embarrassing. And is that going to happen? But he also really likes to travel. So he really wanted to work with it. So having him put those images, like the plane, he could see it underwater. It was in the tropical, so it was sunny. And he really got into the details of the image and looking at that. And, is that image, can it hurt you? Well, it feels really scary. But can I come back into, okay, that's an image that my brain is generating? So part of it is just that simple. And part of it is also, so why is my brain generating that image? And part of the reason for that might be our personal history. A lot of it is what we see visually on screens. And some of it is just our imagination of, well, something bad could happen. And our brain is trying to help protect us. So, if we're talking about walking into that card game, what if we're shunned? What if someone yells at us? And so our brain is always doing that. So I think it's helpful to be honest about what's happening and to not shame ourselves. So I find that the shaming piece is also so important, and the compassion. Like, here we are, these human beings living in this very complex world with a nervous system that developed over millennia for very different circumstances. Small groups of 30 to 50 people, hunter gatherers, that's most of human history. And now we're in these cities, we're in all of this noise. And we also have a lot of real threats. Like, there are people who wish us harm, and we need to protect ourselves. But if we're in a state of freeze, we're going to be not aware of that. If we're in a fight or flight, we're not going to be acting as wisely as we could. And so the most safety we can have is if we're regulated and we're aware that we're here and we're aware of what it is that's going on in our mind and what's the evidence. Is that true? Where does that come from? And just to acknowledge we're scaring ourselves, and that's not helpful. So how can I stop scaring myself if I'm doing that? So the image on the wall is one. Sometimes I'll have people, if they like to keep their eyes closed, just kind of move the image up to a corner, or imagine that the image, it's a watercolor painting and there's rain coming down in the water. Anything that we can do to help the brain recognize that this isn't happening right now. This is an image. And then with that strength, then we can do more of that trauma work. That if we're with a therapist or somebody, we can be in the body. I love that there's so much somatic awareness in therapy now. And we can be in our bodies and we can safely, okay, right now I feel really frightened. And it's showing up as this kind of tingly feeling in my whole body, or it's showing up as this. And then we go, what is the size of that? But what's on the outside of that? Like, sensations come and go in time. Like, we don't always feel that sensation. But also sensations, even if you have a pretty intense sensation in your chest, for instance, do you feel it in your fingertips? Do you feel it in your whole body? Sometimes we do. If I'm on the edge of my seat, what's going on with that? Like, am I ready to fight or to run away? Do I need to? So I think this exploration of what's going on in our body is so fascinating. And then we can bring in our history, like, okay, what is it specifically that's coming up? I do a certain amount of work with inner child, and often the sensations in our body, when we sit with them, there's some form or age, some experience that happened when we were younger that comes forward.
Isn't it fascinating how that body
It's
sensation
fascinating. Yeah.
tells you so much of what
Yeah.
it goes back to your history? I mean, just doing my own work over the years, one of my reoccurring is a pit in my stomach. And I can go all the way back to kindergarten and being on the bus, and like
Yeah.
no one would sit with me. And that
Right.
pit in your stomach, like that, it's amazing how you can go right there
Isn't it? Yeah.
and connect to that pit and then go, okay, now,
Uh,
breathe through it, move it, really nurture it.
Yes.
And so these body sensations, how aware are you of your body sensations now doing this work? Like, is it something you quickly can identify, or I'm
I
curious?
can now. I mean, for many years before I started doing this specific work around sensations and energy, I was doing yoga and meditation. So I was very familiar with my body through that, but never through a trauma lens. Although I look back now and I can see that what we were really talking about was the nervous system a lot of the time. But my shoulders, it used to be just up around my ears all the time. They started to release. My body started to be more comfortable. But then what generally happens is once we start to get in our body, we start to be more aware of what's going on in our body. And that's kind of a mixed blessing. Lots of people will say, oh, I'm here from the neck up. I don't know what's going on in my body and I don't really want to know. And we could have some compassion for ourselves because there's a reason for that. So if when we were a child, especially, we were having a hard time, nobody was there to help us through that. We don't have the resources as a child. Literally, our brain is not developed enough to help us through some of those things. But also, we don't have any agency. We can't leave a bad situation if we're a child. We're really just kind of stuck for the most part. Some children might look around and have a grandparent or a teacher or somebody or a friend's parent or somebody who can help them. But a lot of us just cope with that on our own. And then the corrective experience of as an adult going back and sitting with that feeling, it's like I often will just say, "You're not alone anymore. I'm here." And it took a little while for me to trust myself, for that child to go, okay, she's not just going to go into freeze again for the next 20 years. But there's something so special about that. So now when I have a sensation or an energy come up, I notice it right away because I don't have a lot of energy in my body anymore. And when it comes up, it comes in kind of subtle. So it's not like big clench. It's kind of like a little bit of lift in my shoulders or a little bit of sensation in my gut or my heart center. It's like, okay, what is that? And because my mind is quieter, I notice sooner. And also then I know. I do a lot of nervous system regulating practices every day. So for the last, it'll be 10 years in December, I've done a daily online meditation practice at 8 a.m. Eastern every single day for almost 10 years. And that's been great for the community who does that with me, but it's also been great for me. And a lot of what we do isn't, kind of classical meditation. A lot of it's nervous system regulating. So we work with the breath and we'll do Blue Star and Yoga Nidra and different meditations. But a lot of what we do is nervous system regulating. So that's been really helpful. And also it gets me into my body every day. And I have a habit now of when I wake up in the morning, I check in, what's going on. I get out with my dog and walk and I go swimming and I do things that are helpful that way. So I try to inhabit my body in a way that wasn't really available to me before. And I've been fortunate to not have chronic pain or something like that. I know it's very difficult for people with nerve pain or different kind of conditions in their body. But often we'll kind of turn against our body and we'll turn against the sensations and energy in our body. So our body's trying to tell us something, and our body meaning our unconscious mind, really. It's the sensations and energy that aren't verbal. And then we do something to push it away. So that I think there's a tipping point that people reach when we start to feel comfortable enough. I know that there's nothing in my body that's happening that's out to hurt me. There's never a bad intention. So it might be painful. Something might come up that's painful. And I have a lot of confidence that I can work with it. I'm not scared of it anymore. And I know that if I need help, I can reach out for it. And it might be to a friend, it might be to a therapist. But oftentimes now I could just kind of regulate my system and come back into presence and come back into, wow, that's kind of intense what's going on there. I had something happen not that long ago with someone, and I'm like, my feelings are really hurt. So, not to go into an anger response or anything like that, but just to get sad and like, I feel really sad about that. And then, of course, it doesn't get stuck because we're
Yes.
feeling it.
It moves
Mhm.
up and out. I'm just amazed. I'm still stuck on 8 a.m. You've done this for 10 years,
Yeah. It'll
like
be 10 years on December 1st.
like every
I
day.
started it every day. I started thinking I would do it for a month, and then we just kinda continued, and there was, like, 2 or 3 people, and now it's just I've had people that have been also there every day with me for 5, 6, 7 years, some of them, and it's just a wonderful once you get into the habit, then it's just something that you do at 8 o'clock, right? "Oh, it's time for the practice," and people know each other, and they wave at each other sometimes. I have it on Zoom, but I also have it on Insight Timer a lot of the time as well. And so people get to know each other. And it's part of the way we kind of form a community is that we do this practice with each other every day. And it's been amazing that for me, the benefits for me, and I know it's beneficial for others too, but it's been hugely beneficial for me. It's been great.
Probably life changing, really. I mean, to
Oh, totally.
take care of your nervous system every day. Like we exercise and we do all these things, which
Yeah.
are wonderful for your body, but this feels different. It's like I'm going to
Yes.
prioritize my nervous system to
Yes.
stay regulated and connected and
Yeah.
present. That
Yeah.
feels different. Like you don't
It
hear
is.
people talking about this. They're like, I exercise, I eat, and I do this and I do that, but you don't hear about nervous system.
I think we should do something for our nervous system every day and really multiple times during the day.
Yes.
So,
What would be
take
your top
a breath.
2? Like, if you had to say, these would be my like, somebody say they don't know where to start, where would you recommend they start?
Well, first, I would recommend that they start with guided practices or in a group because it's a lot easier to do that. I would say at some point we need to work with the breath, but that's not always accessible to people right away. So often I'll talk about the cues of safety and how do you know that you're safe? Our body knows that we're safe if we're breathing with ease. Our body knows that we're in danger if our body's tight and if we're holding our breath. In therapy, I'm sure you've seen this too. A lot of people will hold their breath
All the time.
all the time,
All
right?
the
And it's a
time.
habit in the nervous system. And some people, that becomes a chronic habit then, that then indicates to the body all the time, I'm not safe. Because if we are in danger from a predator, a wild animal in particular, is how our nervous system developed, we got very still and we didn't make a noise and we didn't make a movement. And so that's what our bodies are doing. So if we have a habit of holding our breath, signaling danger all the time. So at some point, I find that cyclic physiological sighing is my very favorite the last few years because we're not holding our breath. It's a continuous breath. But do you think your listeners would like to maybe just walk?
Yes, let's do
Yeah,
it. I love breath work. It's my favorite.
I do too.
I
Yeah,
love it.
I love it too. And with breath work, the difficulty can be if you're in a freeze or if your body's really tight because of trauma, it can feel like unsafe, like it's too
Yes.
much
Yeah,
to
I
just
can.
start to breathe. But I found that this cyclic sighing is accessible to more people. So what it is we do a deep double inhale through the nose and then we breathe out like we're breathing out through a thin straw.
This is my daughter's favorite breath.
Is it? Oh, that's
It's her
excellent.
favorite. She's like, I like square breathing, but I like this. I call it the double inhale. I kind of,
Yes. Yeah, the double inhale. Yeah, that's great.
okay.
Some people call it straw breathing because of the exhale, right? Yeah.
I like that too. Okay.
Yeah. So just get comfortable so you can breathe and then breathe in through your nose and some more. And then purse your lips. Breathe out like you're breathing out through a thin straw. And we'll just do this 3 or 4 times so the listeners can have an opportunity to experience it. And then again. And as you're breathing out, relax your forehead, your jaw, neck and shoulders, all the way down through to your toes. Couple more. And let your breath go back to whatever rhythm it wants to. I find 2 or 3 breaths often is all I need. It's like an immediate reset. It's like magic. Yeah.
That's how I feel. I'm like,
Trying it too. I can see it on your face.
I was just like nap time. My body immediately went, it's like
Uh,
an
yeah.
exhale.
And then the other thing with the breath is if people are holding their breath, they're often holding it at the end of the inhale or the end of the exhale. So at the end of the inhale, you breathe in, and that's more kind of with anxiety. It's like we breathe in and we kind of can't let it go. If we breathe out and then we can't kind of breathe it in, that seems more like an overwhelm or I can't even take another breath. I'm just overwhelmed. And so that can be helpful for people too to look at if I'm holding my breath, do I usually do it at the end of the inhale or the exhale? Just in terms of some information. So that's one of the signals that we can be giving to our body is that we're not safe because of the way that we're breathing. And if people can't get to that right away, a lot of it is because the stomach muscles are clenched, especially women are encouraged to not let our guts hang out. But also when our bodies are tight. So I like to do shaking. It's like there's a Qigong practice shaking the tree. On Saturdays, I do a practice breathe, shake, dance where we breathe somatic mindfulness breathing for 2 minutes. We shake for 2 minutes, breathe, and then we dance to something, and then we breathe again. And it's a nice combination of movement. So, one thing that sometimes people will say, well, in order to meditate or kind of do this nervous system stuff, I need to be able to sit still. I don't really subscribe to that. I think we need to know what's going on in our body and then do something that will be helpful. So, lots of times people will have this energy of, I can't sit back because I need to be able to protect myself. So if that's the case, shaking is often a really good option or, getting out and walking or swimming or doing something physical can be really helpful for the nervous system as well. And then to do this kind of somatic mindfulness around what is it that's activating me? Is it social? Is this a certain person? Is it a certain situation? When we're talking about loneliness, we don't want to be lonely. And yet a lot of the time we're still hesitant to reach out. So we have this history of reaching out isn't always safe, but we're also adults now and we can do something different than what we did when we were 13 or 14 years old. And also we're not surrounded by 13 and 14-year-olds anymore. We've got other adults in our life usually. So we could also bring a more humane, compassionate approach to ourselves and to each other, and not to push ourselves into it, but also to encourage ourselves. Okay, I know these practices will help. If I'm thinking about going into that card game, I could do some regulating. I could breathe before I go. I could get some exercise. I could do all of those things. I could recognize that this is hard for me. Like maybe I could call a friend to go with me. So I might be able to get support that way. For a lot of people, it's also what's happening in their extended families or their families of origin. So if you're going to a dinner and you know that there's going to be people there that are not feeling that safe for you, then it's good to know that. And it's good to strategize around, well, how could I support myself? So one thing I always do is make sure I have a way to get out if I want. I never take a ride with someone. I always take my own vehicle, right? I try to get there early before people are drinking, if it's a drinking situation, because usually people are better when they're not drunk. I might deliberately kind of sit in a certain area where I know that there's people around me who are safer. I might just go, okay, you know what? In this situation, I'm probably going to go and freeze. It doesn't feel that safe for me. I'm just going to breathe and not give myself a hard time. I'm just going to have some compassion. This isn't a safe situation for me. And yet I still feel like I want to be in this situation. So how am I going to support myself? And how can I not shame myself for not being able to handle it? Like, I think that's so common. It's like, well, I should be better than this or something, or I should be. We get a lot of shaming around our nervous system too. It's like my nervous system shouldn't always be in fight, flight, or freeze. Well, we live in an environment that's really hard to be in. And so if we're working with our nervous system, we'll develop more strength and resilience. And then the other thing too is to kind of be aware of our bodies, to do relaxations. I do a lot of guided relaxations on Insight Timer. If I can't get to sleep, for instance, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll put on one of the guided relaxations. And then it helps to focus the mind. So it's kind of one big package, isn't it? It's like what's happening in our mind, what's going on in our body, the sensations, the breath, it's all linked. The good thing about that is that anything that we approach, we can make a difference in the whole thing. So if we work with our breath, our thoughts settle down, our shoulders relax. So we don't have to do all of it. We can just kind of start where we're kind of interested, where it feels like it would be good.
Someone's probably right now going, I feel more relaxed just listening to you. I mean,
Probably, yeah.
because your presence and all the work you've done to really tend to your nervous system really allows other people to feel that. And I feel like that's a gift. Like that's making a
Mhm.
difference. And
That's true. Yeah. My meditation teacher used to say the greatest gift you can give the world is a peaceful mind. And I think that's such a powerful saying because our nervous systems, he wasn't talking about the nervous system, but he was. Our nervous systems pick up anxiety from other people and we pick up fear from other people. And that's the way it worked as we were evolving in small groups. If someone with good eyesight or good hearing on the alert, it was better for everybody to get on the alert then, right? So we pick that up from each other. But now it's not actually accurate for the most part. So our neuroception, that perception of threat or safety, it's not accurate a lot of the time because of the history we bring in and because so many people have dysregulated nervous systems. And some of that is present moment, it's accurate, and a lot of it is history. And it's the negativity bias in the brain, and it's the just the general feeling of there's a lot going on in the world, and how am I going to keep myself safe? So one of the ways we do that is we hunker down and we do that alone. And so then we're lonely, and then well, that didn't really work out. Now I need to get out there and connect with people. And how am I going to do that? I think it's really helpful to understand the nervous system. It's not that hard to understand. It's a primitive system and it's all automatic. It's autonomic nervous system. And it's really not that hard. And once we start watching for it, we can see right away, oh, I can feel I'm going into a fight response. I had something happen to me earlier this summer. I was swimming and there was some kids skipping rocks who shouldn't have been. I got hit on the back of the head with a rock while I was swimming in the lake. And I went into an immediate fight response. And that's not usually my thing. Usually I go into freeze, but I was just like, I felt really threatened. And I was outraged that those kids were doing that and that the lifeguard who was there wasn't stopping them. And so I just turned around. I started yelling at that kid. And I recognized when I was doing it. So I go, this is a fight response. So I didn't go overboard with it, but I yelled for a couple of minutes and you really hurt me. Like, what are you doing? And I didn't go in and stand over top of them and be threatening or anything like that, but I was really angry. And within probably 30 seconds, I recognized, okay, I need to express this. I'm not going to hold it in. I am outraged and he did something wrong. But also, I could feel the activation in my body a little bit just talking about it because it was dangerous.
Yes.
I mean, if he had hit me in the temple, I could have drowned. But that didn't happen. And I had a heavy hat on. I have this yellow hat that I wear so that the boaters can see me. So it hit the hat, it cushioned it a little. But I was surprised when I saw that because I just don't generally go into a fight response. So I think the thing is that we could have some compassion for ourselves,
Mhm.
that we have things happen to us and then we respond. And the more quickly we can recognize what's going on, and the more we can bring in some practices, like I started breathing, I started looking around, I just started to regulate my nervous system again. And then within a couple of minutes, it was pretty much dissipated. Then I noticed over the next several days, it would come back up and I would feel outraged again. And then I would work with it. And I mean, that's just human nature. That's what we do, right?
Yes.
And we try to not be a jerk, but if we're in a fight response, it's a survival response. So we don't have an open heart. We're just thinking about our survival. And I think that's one of the things about doing this nervous system work that really benefits everybody is we're not hard for people to be around because we're regulated. We feel safe for other people. So there's that help. But also we have the capacity then to really connect authentically and deeply with people. And we can't do that if we're in a fight, flight, freeze.
You just articulated so many things in such a beautiful way because I've done 330 some odd podcasts and it's a
Wow.
lot of podcasts. And to hear you verbalize things in just a beautiful, heartfelt way, but it resonates deeply, deeply. And the way you put the breath connected to safety, because clients
Mhm.
come in most of the time holding their breath,
Right.
most of the time.
Yeah.
They don't recognize it, but they're holding their breath. We all do it. It's so I like how you equated the breath to safety and really linking those together and how that impacts the nervous system. And then when we're in fight, flight, or freeze, because we're protecting ourselves, the open hearted state, we're not available for that connection because we're in protection.
Exactly. Yeah. And I got that through Deb Dana. She's done such beautiful work on the nervous system. And she talked about our hearts are not open when we're in a survival response. Yeah, that is so true.
Yes,
We don't care about anything.
we don't. She's been on
Yeah.
the podcast and you remind me of her.
Oh,
Like you just
uh,
the
oh,
same
thank you. That's
feeling
quite a
in your
compliment.
nervous like I feel the same when I felt with her when I was interviewing her.
Yeah.
There's just an ease and a flow and an open-hearted state that I feel from you, and that
Mm,
beauty of when you do this work, I
yeah.
think you
Mhm.
offer that. You just bring it. It's
Yeah.
authentic.
Yes,
Mhm.
I interviewed her as well, and she's a joy to be with.
Truly, what
Yeah.
is
Really.
highlight of one of my I mean,
Yeah.
interviewed many people, but she's definitely one that I could just feel her nervous system, and it was such a gift because you could feel, just like your nervous system, all the presence that you have an open heart in this space.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful way to live, isn't it?
Yes.
And we don't have to be perfect
Yes.
at it. We don't have to always get it right, but we have to value it, I think, enough to go, okay, this is important. So eating correctly and getting enough sleep, all that stuff's important too. But doing something for our nervous system, if we have a lot of catastrophic thinking, our life is miserable because we're always jacked up. We're always hypervigilant. We're preparing for things that probably aren't going to happen. So we need to do something about that. And there are so many things that we can do. And then over time, and it doesn't take years and years, I think people start to improve immediately. And then it takes sometimes longer for things to really work their way through, especially if we're working with complex PTSD or, childhood trauma. That, one of the things it happens with trauma is that we disconnect from ourselves and from our body. And so how can we come back in and really inhabit our body? And one thing that I've been really working with the last couple of years is inhabiting my body on Mother Earth. So one of the reasons that there's so much climate catastrophe is that we're disconnected from ourselves, but we're also disconnected from the earth. So can I go for a walk? I was just out on a walk before we met and feel the earth. I'm not just walking on nothing, I'm walking on the earth and the air that's on my skin and the trees. And when I go swimming, can I be in the water? A few weeks ago, I was swimming and I was in the water, but I hadn't quite landed there mentally yet. And all of a sudden, this fish jumped right in front of me, like 10 feet away. Like, okay, I'm here now. But, so many times we do something that's so pleasurable, but we're not really there. We're thinking about something else, or we're in a state of freeze or something, or we're ruminating about something. We're not there. And so I think that's one of the greatest gifts of this work is that we can inhabit our bodies and do that. Feel safe enough to actually tune in. What is going on in here? And why is that? And to not shame ourselves for having a nervous system, to allow ourselves to have a response to life. I mean, that's the beauty of life is that we respond to it. And we can't do that if we don't feel safe enough to do that. So that really is something that I think is more and more people are experiencing now is that we can have the courage, but also the capacity, the strength and the resilience to be here and inhabit our life and inhabit our body and connect with each other. And I'm really enjoying talking with you too.
I love this
Yeah.
so much. When you were talking about the fish while you were swimming, we live on a channel. And the other day, my teen daughter and I were looking out the window and there was a baby beaver.
Oh, cool.
I've never seen a baby beaver. Have you ever seen a baby beaver?
I have, yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, they're the cutest things. And it was having the time of its life. It was jumping off one of the ladders,
Oh, yeah.
jumping in, and
Jumping
then
in the water.
jumping in the water. And then he would pop back up, jump back on the ladder, and jump. We watched this baby beaver for an hour. And I
I
thought,
bet it was
what a
fun.
gift. We're not on
Yeah.
phones.
Yeah.
We are paying attention to nature.
Mm.
That little beaver was teaching us joy, being in the moment. Me and my daughter enjoying this moment of enjoying the beaver, having
Yes.
fun. It's going to be
Yeah.
a core memory.
Definitely. Yeah.
And those are the moments where nature is mirroring back to us the essence of us.
Yeah.
I was like,
A beautiful experience.
I was thinking of you swimming with the fish and like, whoa, there's the fish. And it's just doing its thing.
Yeah.
And
It
that's,
wasn't trying to wake me up. It was
oh,
just doing its
yes.
thing.
I just was like, I was picturing you in the water and that fish, that it reminded me of all the nature is trying to mirror back to us, this freedom that we have
Yeah.
lost to some degree within ourselves.
Freedom and the joy. Yeah.
Truly.
And
So,
what a loss that is. It's nice to be able to sleep at night because our mind isn't racing as much and to not be always so kind of hypervigilant. All that stuff is great. But what it opens for us is present moment awareness,
yes.
connection with ourselves, with each other. You and your daughter will always have that together. That's wonderful.
Yes. And so thank you for sharing that. As we wrap up, any books that you would say have really impacted you? And it could be anything or any book, and it could be a couple.
I think, well, Gabor Mate is one of the people that I've learned a lot from. Some from his books, but a lot from his talks. He's pretty available. I would say, in terms of books, Pete Walker, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving, Tao of Fully Feeling. All of his books are so good. When I first read Complex PTSD, I just went, oh my gosh, this is the book I would write. Like it just felt so true, except he has decades of experience as a trauma therapist. It's not like I knew everything that was in the book before I read it. It just really rang true. And I've also learned a lot from, I've done the Radical Recovery Summit interviews. I've interviewed a lot of people, Stephen Porges and Deb Dana, who we just talked about, Deb Dana. There's so many people that are doing such great work. And so even just to Google trauma and joy, for instance, or somatic healing, or, Resma Menakem is another one, My Grandmother's Hands. And he's a somatic experiencing person. Diane Poole Heller. There's so many people that have such great work. So now it's not that hard to find really good resources. And I think it's really helpful. And a lot of them are on video or they're free webinars or something. So we can really access them pretty easily and do something for your nervous system every day, whatever that is. So it might be reading, it might be breathing, it might be something, but to get serious about that, just like you brush your teeth,
I really believe that's it.
yeah, I do too.
I really do. And I love that you're talking about this because I think that you speaking about your own experience and you doing something for your nervous system for 10 years.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
you are a case study on you've done it for 10 years. Like we have people say, I'll do this for a certain period of time, but you've done it for 10 years
Yeah.
and it's been
I've
life
also been
changing.
meditating for 32. So I used to hear people, oh yeah, I've meditated for 30 years now. Wow, what would that be like? And then time goes by. Here I am.
Here you
Yeah.
are. Well, you're
I
inspiring
know a lot
others.
about the mind. I know about how our mind works.
Hmm.
And now over the last 15 or so years, I've really brought in the nervous system and the healing trauma. And I'm so confident that our body knows how to heal and we can heal our mind and we can heal from core deficiency beliefs and from shaming. We can open our hearts. I really know that. And partly it's because I've seen it with all the people that I work with. They'll take some little thing and they'll come back later and they'll say, well, I've been doing this, or I really had a breakthrough with that. Or it's really helpful for people to have company in this as well, of people who are like-minded and who care about this. Yeah.
Makes a difference.
It
If
does.
people love what you've shared today, which I know they are, they're going to be loving this conversation. Where can they find you?
So my website is kind of the hub. It's lynnfraserstillpoint.com. And I'm on Insight Timer a lot as well, several days a week. And I have guided practices on there and courses. I teach at Yoga Farm Ithaca. It's an online big yoga training school. I'm doing a course in October, Find Your Still Point. All of that stuff is linked on my website. And also the daily practice is on there. The link is on my website under classes. And every Sunday, I do a free community class for about an hour and a quarter. And I do about 20 minutes of some kind of topic around nervous system healing generally. We talk right now, we're working with relationships and attachment. I've covered a whole lot of different topics. I'll teach and we'll do somatic inquiry for about 25 minutes. And then the group breaks into small groups of 4 or 5, 3, 4 people. And they talk with each other for about a half an hour. And then we come back and talk together. And that has been going on for, I think that's 7 years now. And it is so powerful. The opportunity for people to share with each other. And time after time, they'll say, I didn't know that I'm not the only one. Like, here's this other person in there who I think is a pretty decent person. And they have the same kind of weird thoughts in their mind as I do. Or I think it's very helpful to understand that we're not broken because we have system responses. We have them because that's how our system works. And then that's how we can heal from them as well. And also, I'm just working on a revision of Friends with Your Mind, how to stop torturing yourself with your thoughts. And that will be out, I think, in about another month or so. People could see that then as well.
And they can get that on Amazon?
Yes. Right now it's on Amazon as a Kindle, but it's also on my website. And if you link to the free gifts, you can download a PDF of the 2017 version. And I have another ebook on there on healing trauma. So I have a lot of free resources, and partly because I just feel like this is so important to understand, but it's also kind of easy to understand the basics. And to encourage people to do these practices, do guided practices at the beginning, because that will help. Or come to the 8 o'clock practice with me and do them in a group. And sometimes people will come once in a while, some come every day, but everyone's always welcome to come. And there's a lot of resources. Listening to podcasts like you, that's a really good resource for people as well. So they might find a book, but it's also these kind of podcasts that go deeply into this. These are really helpful.
Yeah. And then to put it into practice, I always say, decide to make one change.
Yes.
It's just maybe you heard something today and you want to join the 8 a.m. practice, or maybe you want to just start with breathing or pick something.
Right. Or maybe with a compulsive thinking, put that on the wall on the other side of the room and do that little practice.
I love that. You shared so much wealth of information and knowledge, and transforming really application for life-changing. I really believe that life-changing nervous system, where you can heal your nervous system and work with it every single day in a nurturing way and compassionate way. So thank you so much, Lynn, for your heart and your work you're doing in the world. And I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here as well. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Close the Chapter podcast. My hope is that you took home some actionable steps along with motivation, inspiration, and hope for making sustainable change in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, click the subscribe button to be sure to get the updated episodes every week, and share with a friend or a family member. For more information about how to get connected, visit Kristen, Kristen, Boyce, BOICE.com. Thanks, and have a great day.